Right.
Also carry another name.
Well, let's see. Let's have a look at it together. So we're looking at Philip Adams' article, Is That the Time? Practice Reading Assessment. Yeah. Gist. Hey, Tommy. Tell us
Time flies much faster now than before, and we don't really understand. We don't really understand things as it is too fast.
Yes. Yeah. Good. And Dilhani, would you like to add to that? Gist.
Yeah, in my answer I said it's in this article it talks about the time. Time is passing quickly and the world is changing. We should use the time wisely, not to just waste.
Okay, now you got to be careful with this kind of thing because that would be a logical thing you could say. But does the writer say that? Where does he say we shouldn't waste time?
In here.
Where, Nancy?
It's
like my feeling.
Now that's what you've got to be
opinion.
careful of. Yeah, my feeling.
Yeah.
Now, are you bringing previous knowledge from your life experience and ideas that we shouldn't waste time and da-da-da? This is a danger. Any bit of text, any reading process is an interaction between the text and our previous knowledge and our attitudes that we bring, sure. But we also have to be able to separate the two, don't we? And I see this happen a lot. It's just a psychological, factor that we often, we call it project. We project our feelings onto somebody else or somebody else's words. Now, is that there?
No.
I don't think that last bit's there.
No.
So this is where you have to be careful, especially with gist, because it's a general thing, and it's easy to kind of go astray, go away from what the writer actually said. This is a major source of error, I'd say, in reading assessments. That you impose your idea on the writer. You do have to be careful of this. So yeah, look, this sort of discussions are kind of useful because we come up with the dangers and the issues around this process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lita again. What else could you add? I know it's your first read, but general gist.
In my opinion, this time has changing all the time.
Yes.
From how it's looked like before. Since they go from chain, waistcoat, and finally arrest on the wrist, and then the time itself. It said like how they perspective of the time, how they spend the time before. It's like comparison the time before and now.
Yes,
like
comparison.
Comparison,
Yeah.
And the time before is like when we look at the media, and just the size just a tiny story when the person search for nuclear crisis in Japan. He just found this tiny story, just one column in length, but maybe before it's like 7 pages in the paper.
Yeah.
And then also how they look at the time is people attentions about the time is already changing.
Yeah, good point. So the historical development, you're emphasising the historical change. Yeah, in our perception time. Yeah, no, that's a good summary. What about just we can. One thing that can come up in gist, you have the topic and what we call the tone, the attitude of the writer to the topic. Can you see how it's a little bit different? You've got the topic, which is time kind of getting faster. He certainly writes about that. Then one good thing to try to capture in your gist is this thing, what we call the tone. What does the writer think about time speeding up? You know, I mean, basic, you know, does he think it's good or does he think it's bad? What feeling do you get from this? Do you think he thinks it's a positive development?
No.
No.
Or, okay, so negative, okay. Those who said negative, Nancy, what, you know, if in your gist, try to in your gist to talk about the topic, but also a sentence or two about this attitude of the writer. That will strengthen your answer for gist. So what would you add here, Nancy, in your sentence or two?
Because this some words it's describe the time loss is very negative.
Yes, true. Can you give us some examples?
Like the first paragraph, the
Mhm.
final sentences, in the final throws,
Mm-hmm.
watch now, boast, multiple dials. It's the boast.
Uh-huh.
And the second paragraph is increasingly tyrannical.
Tyrannical, yeah, that's a better one. What's tyrannical mean?
It means
That's a very good example.
it's like
Enemy.
and
It has-
fighting. Or
Yeah, look, it has that feeling. A tyrant is a dictator, an evil dictator, tyrant. So you get the adjective tyrannical. So the tyrannical rule of the evil king,
Mhm.
right? So it's evil control. And he's saying that time is becoming increasingly tyrannical, yeah, controlling us in a bad way. Yeah, that's a nice example to use. Anybody else see any other examples? So look, your strongest answer is always make a general comment, and it's just like science, you know, give us stuff we've talked about all last term, give us some evidence. If you can use a little quotation, a couple of words here or a little phrase or whatever, and include it, you get this mix of the, you get a mix of the general statement and the particular quotation. So if you said, yeah, Adams believes this is a negative development because he says time is becoming, quote, increasingly tyrannical. Yep. So you're using a mix of your words. Remember we talked yesterday about no cutting and pasting. It's not really no cutting and pasting because you actually do here, don't you? Just a little bit, maybe 10, 20%. You drop in some evidence that strengthens your argument, your claim that yes, this is what Adams thinks. What's the evidence he thinks? Give us one or two bits. Can anyone find another bit of evidence that time is killing us? Yes. We talk of killing time where more than ever time is killing us. That's another very strong one. See the idea? You just, if you're going to say he thinks it's negative and you're right, just back it up with a couple of strong quotations. Good, so that'd be that collective answer would be a good one for gist. I think you've got the gist of the gist. Let's look at number 2. What's the effect of this attitude to time, this general attitude of time that humans are having, you know, things are getting faster and faster. What's its effect on the media? Marley? Don't know if you've had time to fully read it, but even your first impressions.
It says, Adam says, I predict the World War I likely to be right within the few dramatic days. It will say, it will compare it to the World War Served in the war, and it will say news. It will survive in the news cycle. In the media.
Okay, if we take that one, World War III, huge big event. Yeah, it is relevant to the question. You've got to. It's fine to use this spot for your argument, your answer. How much news will it get? I mean, World War II lasted what? 6 years. 39 to 45.
Medium does.
World War One, 4 years, then 6 years. World War III, probably quite a while.
The medium size.
Now that medium is referring to the media. Right, media is plural, medium is singular. So any medium that survives it. So
So if you just have a few weeks in the media.
that's right. It'll just get a few weeks. Then people will be bored. Oh, World War III, that was boring. Yeah.
Endless time for celebrity trivia.
Trivia. You will get onto celebrities in a minute. What if we stick with his first example? What's it demonstrate? What's his general point about what's the media doing?
They just export the news immediately, and when the people were interested in that news, but when the time passed on, the news become too older, and the people were not focus on that and feel it's boring to read.
Yeah, it says
Yeah.
our attention is briefer than it says here.
Yes.
Our attention spans are ever briefer.
Yes. And this ever here means getting ever and ever, continuously. That ever here has got quite a particular use. It means that it's getting more and more and continuously briefer. Yeah. If there was a puddle of water there and it's slowly drying up, I'd say, look, it's getting ever smaller, just continuously. That ever, a little bit of a different use from how we usually use ever. Yes. That's right. And so the media's attention span and our attention span is getting smaller and smaller, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody like to add anything to this answer about the media? Another example or another point that he makes?
Endless time for celebrity trivia. That's we have observed, like, there are a lot of like celebrities, concerts, media shows, movies, everything.
Yes.
And if you go on website and you see like thousands of movies, no one have time to see every single movie. So there's like not like there's a endless time for celebrity trivia. So like if you go into the ocean of the celebrity world, you won't be able to come out, like, no, not
Right, because there's so much
there's
news
so
on
much
it, isn't
to
there? Yes.
discover, so much to.
Yeah. So what's his point? Is the news on? Is he saying the news about celebrities, is that going the same way as the rest of the media?
No.
Yeah, Lita, it's not. Can you? In what way is it not?
Well, because the celebrities news is interesting for everybody. So it will be like
Careful with that. Is it interesting for everybody? I never read it. Well, good question. Does Philip Adams read? Do you think Philip Adams reads celebrity
but
news?
always comes something new about celebrity that
Yeah.
attract many attention.
Yes, a lot of people do,
Yeah,
doesn't it? Yes.
People will focus on that more than like Japan crisis, nuclear crisis, whatever.
Yeah, crisis.
Crisis.
Yeah.
As he saying Jaeger has a longer shelf life than our interest in anything.
Yeah, and read the next two words. Critical.
Our interest in anything of significance.
Of significance. That's key, isn't it? So what's he saying about news coverage of meaningful things? Is it short or long? It's short, isn't it? And very brief. World War III, just a few weeks. Japanese nuclear crisis. What did he say about that one?
It's still happening, but and even worsening, but boring.
That's right. And how much news? how big was it and where was it?
Tiny column and then seventh of a major paper. So
Yeah.
turning, and I found.
Yes, buried, isn't it, in the back of the, fairly far in.
Ancient land.
That's right. So significant news events are getting smaller and smaller. What's happening to celebrity news?
They're getting bigger.
Bigger and
Yeah,
bigger.
it's getting bigger and bigger, isn't it? So that's going in the opposite direction, that trend. Yeah.
And again, if you want to explain, the gist of the article is, as the time is going on and increasing the events, our attention to the time of this happening are getting less
Yes,
and less.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. The media response is briefer and briefer news, isn't it? As time is getting faster and faster.
Why? What is the policy of this?
I think because it really depends on the attention of people. People are more interested in celebrities. The media focus in that area because they have more income. So pretty much the media, the base is whatever the income is, they go for the income. Yeah.
That's a key point, isn't it? It's about ultimately about profit. Newspapers are, I've just explained how most media, most private media is based on profit, isn't it? So as Ahmed says, whatever attracts attention, people get bored with it, you've got to be on to the next thing. So it creates this sense of time moving very quickly. Okay, but again, be careful with that. That's an interesting question and a very important one, but in an assessment condition, is it important here? The question of why?
No.
Does Adams explore the reason why?
No.
No, he doesn't, does he? He's just observing this surface phenomenon, and it's an interesting one, and he's commenting, I think, kind of creatively about it. But he doesn't go into the why, and therefore it's not our job to go into the why.
Yeah.
So don't go any further outwards or deeper than whatever the article is talking about. In terms of assessment, in terms of critical thinking, let's do it, But this particular context, we're just not going to do it. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what is the actual answer?
All of those things that people have said.
Oh,
I mean, look, there are several. Basically, the fact that if I had to summarise the effect of this speed of time speeding up, he's saying that the media therefore almost has a shorter and shorter kind of collective memory, and it reports more and more briefly on things of significance and forgets them more quickly. Something like that. I mean, every person's going to write slightly differently about it, of course. It's not a multiple choice. So if a multiple choice, you'd say, okay, there's one exact answer. But
or I can say selling the interest point to make a quick money.
no, you can't say that. Why can't you say that?
It's not here.
Because it's not what he writes about, is it? He doesn't mention what Ahmed and I were giving as explanations at all. You can only write about what this writer talks about. For the purpose of reading assessment, we've just got to report what this writer is saying. Yeah? So 2 things to be careful of we looked at so far. Imposing your knowledge and previous ideas and feelings on the writer, and also going into further explanations or questions of why, or your own kind of explanation.
No.
Don't go there. Okay, because I do see these things happen in people's answers sometimes, and it's a problem. All right, what about where he predicts the future? Was he Min? Okay, Min, can you tell us why? No, he can't. All right. Min, hang on, I'll ring him on the mobile. James.
Well, it's in the 4th paragraph that I predicted World War III like to be wish reading in a few dramatic days, and summarize what it says. What the author says is the important issue. Significant events will only stay in a very short period of time in the media and attract our attention in a similar manner.
Which events are those? Because you mentioned one. you mentioned World War III.
I forgot another kind of. Sorry. What is summary? What is level? It's World War III one, and for the second coming of Christ, hours even shorter.
Yeah.
And shorter time span.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last judgment, it will be lucky to survive one news cycle, even more shorter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but however, not even
That's good, because that's the rest of it is a general comment about attention spans getting briefer, and then the yoga and the celebrity. That's not about the future, is it? So,
Yeah.
so you've commented on the future bit. That's good. That's a good summary.
But however, on the other hand, people are spending more and more. The author said endless time for unimportant issues.
Yeah. 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 Now you don't really have to say that bit, because the question is only about what he says about the future, right? So those three things: the World War III, the Second Coming, the Last Judgment. You've summarised that very well. That's great. Notice there's a second bit of the question. Its level of realism or seriousness. Any thoughts? How serious, how realistic is he being here?
It's just his ideas.
Certainly it's his ideas, but they could be his serious ideas, or it could be his playing around sort of ideas.
Somehow serious. It's also realistic.
Serious and realistic?
Yeah, because
So he's predicting that World War III, the Second Coming of Christ, and the Last Judgment are going to get these very short news reports.
yeah, this is the realistic. It is. We can predict, like, it would be realistic that these events will get short news, because most of the people don't want get their brain to get used in serious ideas. They want their brains to get entertained, so they would prefer celebrity news in comparison with this news. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. I don't think he's comparing the two necessarily.
He's not comparing, but comparing wise, people
Yeah.
won't take, like, it's a serious talk, but people won't take it very serious. They will take it serious for a few days or few weeks.
If someone says this, I think World War III, when it happens, we'll get a few weeks of news. The Second Coming of Christ, when it happens, there might be one news story for a few hours. Then when Last Judgment, what is the Last Judgment, by the way?
End of the world.
The end of the world, right? The end of the world. That's when God just packs everything up and puts it in a suitcase and goes home.
I think the level of realism for the author is low, but the level of seriousness is high.
There's a kind of serious point that he's making throughout the whole thing, isn't it? But he's joking here, isn't he? He's playing around. He's taking extreme things, totally extreme. Like, okay, the end of the world. Oh, that'll get maybe one news cycle. Now, clearly, that's an exaggerate. That's so exaggerated, it's a joke.
And also he uses question marks, so that makes me more like not realistic, more like sort of funny.
Yeah, that's part of the technique, isn't it? Yes, I agree. You could do that in a serious way, but it adds to the playfulness, the way he's doing it here.
Hours. He says maybe for maybe for a few hours. Maybe it says for a few hours it will stay in the media.
It'll only stay for a few hours. Yeah, so Jesus comes down, oh, here he is again.
Maybe
big miracle across the world. Oh, it'll just get a few hours.
Maybe he's over-exaggerating it because of the normal human thinking in comparison with that. Because he's exaggerating it because the human's nature is like that. Everything's get odd for him. So that's why he's over-exaggerating it, because if Jesus comes comes again, it won't be a big news because everything gets old for a human.
That's
And
right.
with the passage of time.
Yeah, that's his point, isn't it? That,
Yeah.
that everything gets old very quickly.
So that's
So
why
even
he's,
a very big
even if he
event-
goes to the last point, the end
Yeah.
of the world, even he thinks it's in a, he's exaggerating it, but it's also making some sort of sense. Even that would get old for humans because humans
That's right.
doesn't like old things.
That's right. That is his point.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's part of the overall serious argument, but he's
Yeah.
he's using very playful
Yeah,
examples.
he's
here.
using irrelevant ideas.
They're not irrelevant.
They are
They're-
not
they're
irrelevant.
relevant to his point.
The seriousness is not there,
That's right.
but he's using, it's kind of both. He's using non-serious ideas
Mm.
in a serious way.
That's right. To demonstrate,
Yeah.
they're part of his overall serious
Yeah.
argument, but he's playing
Yeah.
around with playful examples. Yeah. So, as I said, these sort of articles are a mixture of seriousness and playfulness, and you've got to be able to tell when somebody's not being that serious. I mean, this is a pretty extreme example.
You don't think the author is serious at this part?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Look, okay.
Because I think he is playful
Yeah.
here, but I think he's trying to be in an ironic way.
Ironic, exactly.
Yeah, an ironic
Yeah.
way. He's said in a playful words.
Yeah.
Can I say that? But
Yeah.
what he really means is serious.
The overall point he's making, which is that very big events of significance get very short news.
Yeah.
That's serious, sure.
Uh-huh.
But, okay, I mean, a little bit of background knowledge helps me anyway. Philip Adams is is anybody presenting on Philip Adams? Okay.
Rena?
Yeah, I saw.
I think Rena or something.
Yeah, Rena, yeah. Okay. As Rena will probably tell you, Philip Adams is Australia's most famous atheist. Probably every couple of dozen articles he writes about the non-existence of God, and he jokes around about it, okay? So somebody who's got that position, for a start, they're writing about the second coming of Christ, this thing they don't even believe in, the Last Judgment. I mean, that helps me because I have that background knowledge, right? He's clearly not serious. He's using examples he doesn't even believe in.
I don't mean he is serious about the existence
Yeah.
of God. I
Yeah.
mean he's serious about the situation that the people are spending less time on the significant events.
That's true. That's what I mean. There's this seriousness, but the example he's picking is a playful one,
Uh-huh.
isn't it?
I think
See how it's this mix?
I think it's saying that if people wouldn't take these events seriously, such as World War III, Second Coming of Jesus, and the Last Day, well, what would they take seriously? So he's saying in a playful way, so he's saying that these events are very important, and human beings don't take it as seriously. They will focus on different other media aspects. What would they take serious? I think that's
That is an interesting point. That by kind of implication is they're not going to take anything really seriously, are they? That's right. And except what does he say they do take seriously? We'll come back to this.
I think that's your point. That you mean Philip Adams just writes this paragraph, wrote this point,
Yeah.
not seriously, but only be serious in this point that people are spending less time on important issues.
That's right. His overall point is a serious one.
But the way he writes is not serious.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least in this paragraph.
Yeah.
Where is another example where he takes an example which is a bit more serious, where he demonstrates that the media doesn't treat things very seriously and forgets things very quickly. Just as a contrast, this second coming of Christ, Jesus comes down and hours later it's forgotten. That's a kind of funny. He's trying to be a bit humorous here. Where's an example where he mentions another media example, but it's more serious, just so we can see the difference.
So that the one
We-
royal wedding?
We have already mentioned it.
Royal wedding? Royal wedding?
No, the royal wedding's a little bit different. We'll get to the royal wedding in a minute. What's one we've already mentioned?
The master
Celebrity
judges.
trivia.
Celebrity trivia is the opposite effect. It's people paying more and more attention for longer and longer to it. That's the opposite.
Nuclear crisis?
Yeah, the nuclear crisis, okay? The Fukushima nuclear crisis,